Welcome to the Road to Wellness with Cannabis, Intro to Cannabis Consumption. This is the first part of a three-part Cannabis Health Series presented by myself of Afro Canna Holistic. So good evening, and thank you for joining me to discuss a topic that some may call taboo. This plant has been vilified, stigmatized, and criminalized for over 100 years as a dangerous drug. Today, with the current legalization of recreational cannabis in Connecticut and its inevitable federal legalization, I'd like to raise your awareness of its many benefits. Cannabis has so much more to offer beyond its intoxicating effects. So before we get into it, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Takesha Carter. I am a certified cannabis health coach with the Cannabis Coaching Institute and a certified cannabis advocate through Greenflower and Normal.org. My experience with cannabis is as a medical cannabis patient here in Connecticut. I also create herbal formulations with cannabis, and I guide others in conscious cannabis consumption. I've also studied cannabis, pain, and the opioid crisis, along with advocacy at Oxford University, as well as herbal formulations and herbs at Herbal Academy. Prior to my cannabis profession, I spent many years in the personal care industry as a licensed cosmetologist and a skincare specialist. And that's where my love for helping others transform their health grew. I went on to the medical field and became nationally certified in a few areas in that industry as well. So I created Afro Canna Holistic, which is a space that helps others create transformation in their health with whole foods, herbs, and of course, cannabis. And although I've been involved in the medical industry, I want to be sure to state that I am not a healthcare practitioner. All information presented is solely for educational and informational purposes. Consuming cannabis is legal in the state of Connecticut for those 21 and over and medical card holders only. So be sure to check the laws in your state before consuming. And the disclaimer reads, this presentation is for informative and educational purposes only. I am not a healthcare or medical practitioner. Diagnosing, treating, or prescribing is beyond my scope of practice. Speak with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your medications or dietary routine. And so now that we have gotten that out of the way, let's talk about what cannabis helps with, what it's doing in your body, the components of the plant, and some of the side effects. So today's presentation, we'll get into how cannabis helps, the endocannabinoid system, phytocannabinoids in cannabis, and some side effects. Okay, so how and why cannabis works. So how cannabis helps? Cannabis can help with a multitude of conditions. And aside from the euphoric and intoxicating effects that certain varieties of cannabis can induce, it also benefits the body in other ways. Studies have shown that cannabis has been helpful with rheumatoid arthritis and multiple sclerosis, sleep disorders like insomnia and sleep apnea. It's helpful with acne and eczema and skincare as well for skin disorders. Scientific research has also shown cannabis to be promising in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. People have consumed cannabis to ease symptoms of SIBO, Crohn's disease, as well as IBS for gastrointestinal disorders. And cannabis helps with certain forms of neuropathy and chronic pain, eating disorders, and appetite stimulation, mental health conditions like anxiety and depression, and more. But how can this one plant help with so many health challenges? Well, here's where it gets a little scientific. The endocannabinoid system keeps the body balanced. So in 1988, during a government-funded study, it was determined that the mammalian brain has receptor sites that respond to compounds found in cannabis. The receptors named cannabinoid receptors are actually the most abundant neurotransmitter receptors in the brain. The US government put forth funding towards cannabis research in hopes that it would provide evidence to support its claims of cannabis being harmful and justify its Schedule I narcotic status. But instead, this research unearthed an unknown signaling system within the body that is involved in regulating a broad range of biological functions. This system was named the endocannabinoid system, or ECS for short. The ECS performs multiple tasks, but the goal is always to maintain a stable environment internally. It is the system that creates homeostasis within the body, so Zen within the body. The endocannabinoid system and how it works raise an awareness of how the body functions when the system is intact. This system keeps the body in balance. And when an imbalance is detected, our ECS produces endocannabinoids that work to bring the body back to homeostasis. In some cases, there is a deficiency in the signaling system. And that is where the cannabis plant comes in and can be very effective in supplementing our own cannabinoid deficiency. Endocannabinoid deficiency and ECS dysfunction may be the cause for some of the many health challenges we face today. And so now that we are aware of our bodies having their own cannabinoid receptors, we have the phytocannabinoids in cannabis that come in and provide us with supplemental keys to unlocking the balance our bodies crave. Each cannabinoid binds to a receptor in your body and provides a chemical reaction specific to that cannabinoid. Most of us are familiar with delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, aka THC. That's very difficult to say. THC is the most abundant cannabinoid in the cannabis plant and is the only one responsible for the euphoric effect that we have known cannabis for. So phytocannabinoids in cannabis are molecules that interact with our own endocannabinoid system. They supplement our body's cannabinoids when we're deficient or things are not, signals are not being sent correctly. And they can interact with other receptors in our bodies. And so we have THC, the more well-known ones, THC and also THCA, which is actually the raw plant. The THCA is actually what's in the raw plant, and then it becomes THC once it's activated with heat. Same as CBD and CBDA. And then you have CBN, CBG, and CBC. So other than THC, sorry, I'm having a little malfunction. Other than THC, CBD is the second most abundant cannabinoid in the cannabis plant. It does not have the intoxicating effects of THC, but has many of the same benefits, if not more. The cannabis plant has many more cannabinoids like CBG, CBN, THCV, and others. Some are readily available in products, and many are still being researched. Learning what they are and understanding what they do is a promising way to find the best chemical variety of cannabis for your specific needs. These molecules can have various effects in the body, like antibacterial, antispasmodic, antidepressant, and anti-inflammatory, to name a few. There are products on the market that isolate these cannabinoids to target a specific condition, but these cannabinoids are best consumed in unison with each other for the best cannabis experience. This is called the Entourage Effect. And so, as you can see, we have THC, CBD, CBG, CBN, THC, V, and CBL. But there are so many more cannabinoids in the cannabis plant that is still being discovered. The entourage effect is when multiple compounds work together synergistically rather than alone. And this is optimal for a better experience. So, I mean, with anything, we know working together in unison, teamwork basically makes the dream work when it comes to cannabinoids. And so when you have CBD, it's best to have some THC and the other cannabinoids for the best experience in your body. And cannabis side effects. So although cannabis helps in multiple ways, there are times when the experience is not desirable. Cannabis use does come with some side effects and can induce increased heart rate, dizziness, dry mouth, fatigue, brain fog, tolerance to the cannabis plant, THC. More importantly, CBD doesn't build up a tolerance. Headache, red eyes, and overstimulated appetite and dehydration. Overconsumption and improper dosing may increase the chance of these unwanted effects. So in part 2 of this series, we will discuss conscious cannabis consumption and intentional use to help you avoid some of the unwanted effects of cannabis misuse or overconsumption. Okay. And so part 2 of this Cannabis Health Series will be conscious cannabis consumption next Thursday at 6 p.m. Thank you for your participation. Cannabis Health begins with educating yourself about the plant and what you're consuming. Becoming aware of what it is doing in your body and why it is working is important in deciding if cannabis can be helpful in your health journey. Be sure to return next week for part 2. And if you have any questions, stay for a brief Q&A. Thank you.